Hey, welcome everybody. This is Rita Black, and I am here with Barbara Roy, and this is the Skills of Weight Loss Success series. And I'm super excited because we're really honing in on what are the skills that help people not just take off the weight, but keep it off, but really all that because there are really specific skills that people develop. I don't think we think about being good on a diet or being bad on a diet, but it's really, I feel like long-term permanent weight management is about developing a skill set and maintaining that. So Barbara, welcome and thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate your being here. Barbara's released about 25 pounds. She came and did the shift weight mastery process in the spring. And I think you were wondering if you should do it, wondering if you're not, but what was going on
Mhm.
prior to doing the process for you? Like, where have you been struggling recently?
Yeah. Well, I definitely have been a bit of a yo-yo dieter. Um, and I was just feeling so out of control with my weight, with my health, with my just mentally. I felt so foggy. I felt so like I'm never going to be able to do this. And I just was like, I don't know. I woke up one morning and I was like, I have to do something different because I had, I would say over the last couple of years, joined and then like unjoined Weight Watchers about half a dozen times. And I was like, this is not working for me. There needs to be something else. And
Mm,
I had remembered, I had worked with you, oh God, it was probably a good 6 or 7 years ago.
yeah,
It
I
was
was
a
going to say
while
it's
ago.
more than 5 years ago that we had worked together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, and I sort of always knew that your process was something that really it was successful for me back then.
Mhm.
And it was just like something that just resonated. And I was like, I need something more complete that really focuses not just on the tactical, but really on the emotional and just kind of the whole picture of what it takes to kind of refocus and start to release weight and kind of getting your head that your mindset and also just having all of the tools that you need.
Okay, well, cool. And so you went through the process, and for you, Barbara, for people who haven't done hypnosis before, like how did the hypnosis help you? Because I think that's the thing, the differentiating factor of the shift weight mastery process.
Yeah.
We use meditation and hypnosis to help focus the brain and help you get back to yourself. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the hypnosis is really fascinating actually, because I think that, for a long time, especially when I started with it, I kept thinking, I'm not doing this right because my mind wouldn't, I was like, I'm not relaxing enough, or I'm
yeah,
having thoughts about like,
other
other
things.
things and I'm not doing it right. And I remember in one of our coaching sessions or something, or not a coaching session, but just one of the shift meetings, you had said, there's no wrong way to do it. Just do it. Just keep doing it. And it's okay if other thoughts float in and, just keep going with it. And the more I found that it's probably similar with meditation too, that the more you do it, or just like anything else, the sort of better you become at it.
Yeah.
And by better I mean it it just becomes easier to absorb and to let your mind go and to absorb the suggestions that are coming through your earbud, and just relaxing into it. And after a while, and it is also extremely relaxing, which is nice too. But it's really interesting to me because the way it helped me is that I found that the suggestions that are being that come through in the hypnosis at those challenging times in the day, later on in the late afternoon, after dinner, when I feel sort of vulnerable, where I'm likely to go and have a sugary snack or
Mhm.
salty snack or whatever it may be, it's those suggestions start to kind of seep in and come to the forefront. And it just, for whatever reason, it just made it easier to to sort of resist it And I don't even want to say willpower. It was more just like, it just made it easier to just say, oh, actually, you know what? I think I don't really think I need that. I don't, do I, do I really need that ice cream, or would a nice cup of peppermint tea be better for me right now? I think
Right.
peppermint tea. And like that used to be something that I would try to tell myself beforehand. And that sort of rebel and inner voice would say, a cup of tea, oh, please. You know, you're going to go get the ice cream, just do it. And like the hypnosis really helped to kind of um, put that voice to bed and just make it easier to make the right choices.
I think what you're talking about is really fascinating because I think what you just said was about that rebel
Mhm.
coach. And I think when there's a term, and maybe you heard it in one of our meetings, but maybe you didn't, called closing the loop.
Mhm.
What you went through with like talking about like ice cream, peppermint tea, when our dopamine center in our brain gets really excited, like ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, right? And that little inner rebel, oh, that's what I want. It's like a child. It's like I've got to have my thing, and I don't want tea. I want
Yeah.
ice cream. But I think what hypnosis helps with, and I think ultimately what we're doing is refocusing the brain not on that impulsive moment, but on how you'll feel after you had the peppermint tea versus the ice cream. It
Mhm.
relaxes that dopamine center. So the dopamine brain is looking more at the end game rather than, or the vision rather than that moment.
Yeah.
I think that what you were talking about, I just wanted to clarify for people who maybe don't know about hypnosis, who might be watching this or listening to this, is that your conscious mind in a hypnosis session probably will wander around a lot. And that's where our conscious mind is what we're aware of, like, oh, I'm wandering off and I'm thinking about this and laundry and the things I have to do. But the subconscious mind is always absorbing that. And like you were saying, the longer you listen to it, the more you kind of let that voice just, or that other thing just do what it's going to do, and allow your unconscious mind to absorb it, the more powerful it becomes. And absolutely it builds upon itself. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. Um, Barbara, one of the things that you said, and I think as you know, I'm doing this series with people and I'm looking at different skills that people that skills that have really helped people with their journey of weight release, and then obviously maintaining their weight loss. Um, for you, you mentioned tracking for you was a really big skill. And just for those, again, people who don't know the 9 skills of weight mastery, that 9 skills are taken from over 250 studies of people who have taken weight off and kept it off permanently. And so we really, in Shift, we use hypnosis, but we also use this concept of developing skills versus being good on a diet, because ultimately, with anything that we master in life, we're developing the skill set. So we come at it from a much more educational standpoint where we're developing ourselves. And I loved how you were saying that you were seeing yourself differently. And I do think it's like an identity shift as well. So tell us about your tracking experiences. And because I love some of the things you were saying before we turned on the recording
Yeah.
about your change from hating it to liking it and all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I never, really truly never thought I would be that person that was I like I was saying before, I tracking now is like brushing my teeth. It's like a neutral. It's not that I'm like, I love to track. It's more just like, oh, it's like brushing your teeth. If I don't brush my teeth, I feel kind of gross. And if I don't track, it feels like something is sort of like amiss. Like I need to, this is something that I need to just to do to help myself. And
Right.
yeah,
And to clarify for people who don't know about tracking,
mhm,
why we use tracking and Shift is that it allows us to get really clear on what we're putting into our bodies, but also we really use measurement, like data, to keep ourselves cognitively correct. Meaning, so much of weight loss is like I was good or I was bad, and I was bad, so I might as well be really bad and just overeat. Versus when we know we can maybe Barbara, you can speak to this. Like, if I've eaten a piece of pizza and I've gone, like in my mind, like, oh, that was bad, versus like, well, it was just a pizza. And I think you used that example a couple of times you were talking about like a birthday party or something where you figured out like what a piece of pizza would be, and you were able to eat it and enjoy it. And because
Mhm.
tracking allows you that
Yeah.
get okay, and to keep yourself have a more mature conversation with yourself in those moments.
Yeah, definitely. I think tracking is actually just really powerful because just exactly what you're saying, Rita. I think that for me in the past, if I would have a piece of pizza or, an ice cream cone or something, I would just tend to, I really did have that all or nothing mentality. And I was so hard on myself that it was like the minute I had something that I deemed bad, I just was like, you know what? I blew it. So screw it. I'm just going to, for the rest of the evening, it's no holds barred. I'm just going to have whatever I want with reckless abandon. And it was weird. It was almost like I was eating to spite myself. It was
Right.
ridiculous. And what tracking really does is it just allows you to get control and to not allow those foods, those quote unquote tempting foods, to sort of make you feel like you're losing control. It just simply boils it down to information. Like,
Right.
okay, this is what I had. We went to, I was on the road on a road trip recently. We were on a stretch of the 5 freeway where there was literally no, I was looking for a
I know
Subway.
that stretch.
Right, yeah, and there wasn't anything except a McDonald's and like I was some one or two other not so good choices, and I was like, okay, and we got into the drive-through line, and I quickly went to my Lose It app, and I was like, you know what, a cheeseburger is actually not as many calories as I thought it would be, and I got a cheeseburger and a Diet Coke. I had like 4 or 5 of my daughter's fries, and I called it a day. And guess what? It really wasn't that bad. It
Yeah.
just wasn't. And again, for me, I mean, it was like a 300-calorie lunch, which not the most nutritious lunch. I'm not trying to say that, but like just the single patty cheeseburger with like 4 fries and a Diet Coke is actually not that many calories. But
Right.
before tracking, before I would, was kind of a regular tracker, I would have been like, oh my God, I had McDonald's. Like I'm here in the drive-through line. I'm gonna get the double Whopper and the large fries, and because I'm doing McDonald's, and I should have just gone to the Whole Foods and been organized, and I would have beaten myself up. And it's so ridiculous because sometimes I mean, yes, of course, planning is always preferable, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And I
Yeah.
think what's powerful about tracking is that it allows you to kind of be really specific about where you are, what you've had, and it doesn't have to be a drag. It just is what it is. And I think for a long time I used to think it was so difficult. And the other thing that I wanted to say about tracking is that sometimes, and this is what would always kind of get to me, is that, or kind of trip me up, is that if I couldn't find it on my Lose It app or my Fitness Pal, I would get so stressed out about the fact that I couldn't find the exact perfect numerical representation of like the salad that I ate at that little cafe that's not a chain.
Right.
So I started to do instead is I'd take a picture of it, and then when
Mm.
I got home, I would just look and see what was on there. And
So you deconstruct it.
I deconstruct it, and I would just make a reasonable guess. And I would just tell myself, listen, even if I am 50 to 100 calories off, big deal.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so what? Like, that's not going to impact my progress.
Or you're like over a long-term permanent weight loss.
Exactly, exactly.
Is that
So
really
that was incredibly eye-opening to me as well, because I've always
right?
been a little bit of a perfectionist, all or nothing type, and I think a lot of people are. And I think that's why a
Yes.
lot of people get incredibly discouraged with weight loss journeys, is for that reason, that they beat themselves up and they're like, I can't do this. And so yeah,
We get overwhelmed and then we shut down. And yeah, you
yeah.
you really, I love that idea of taking a picture. I have never done that. I will deconstruct it in my mind at the time, but taking
Hmm.
a picture just allows you just to be in the moment, eat it,
Yeah.
and you can figure it out later.
Right.
Like shoot first, ask questions later. Uh, you know, eat
Right.
first, ask the questions later. You'll
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
I love that. Has and it's what I love about tracking is how it connects you to yourself, how it gives you that mature communication. Because I feel like long-term permanent weight management is about changing your inner communication. Just like you said, when we're perfectionistic, which a lot of us weight strugglers are, we get very tripped up in the details of the diet, and no, I didn't get that special ingredient, and isn't,
Right.
so it's not going to happen. Versus when you track, you're really looking at energy, and you're
Mhm.
looking at like this: if I'm consistently bringing in about the right amount of energy, I'm going to release
Yeah.
weight, and I can be at choice, and I get to be the driver in the driver's seat of this. Like you said, I get to choose to go to McDonald's, have
Mhm.
a burger. No, it's probably not the most nutritious thing, but it's going to work for me today.
Yeah.
And, and something else will work for me tomorrow. So
Right.
I love that this particular shift has illuminated that for you. Do you have any other, advice or, yeah, advice or insights for somebody who's just starting out who may be like,
Mhm.
now if I can lose weight, or I'm just so over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say really and truly, and this was a hard one for me to learn, but um, well, there's the the three P's I like to call it: the patience, persistence, and perseverance. Um, but really, truly, just like having trust in the process and having trust in yourself. And
Mm,
that one was really a big one for me because I remember, Rita, you've said a few times, like, you talk about thinking like, oh, my body's broken. And I remember I used to think like, I really did kind of think that. I was like, I just can't do this. Like, I'm never going to look a certain way because it's just not who I am. It's not, my mother was never skinny. Although my mother was, that's actually not true. My mother was beautiful, and when she was a little bit older, she put on some weight. But I had all these reasons and rationales for thinking why I could never be successful with this.
mhm.
And I think at the beginning of the shift weight mastery process, I really had to have a conversation with myself where I just said, "You're just going to trust in the program, and you're really going to trust in yourself." And you're going to take your time, and this is not a race. And I think that, you know like at first I was like, I want to lose 2 pounds a week, and and I was like, and I remember actually we had an exchange
I
about
remember that
that.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, I think it's more realistic for to go closer to, like maybe like half a pound a week. And I was like, oh, that seems so slow. And but I kind of adjusted. And that's when I had that conversation with myself where I was like, really, like, who are you doing this for? You're not doing this to fit into a dress. You're not doing this to go to some party. There's nothing. I mean, my God, we're in a pandemic. You're not going anywhere. You're just
Right.
doing this for yourself and for your health. And
Yeah.
that's it. And I think once I kind of really digested that and really sort of internalized that and started seeing this as just long term and a way of life and something that I just stopped thinking of it in terms of weight release, and I started thinking of it in terms of just a new way of sort of dialoguing with myself, thinking about myself, and and just adopting some new, really healthy attitudes. And having said that, I'm not going to say that I wasn't actively monitoring my weight loss. Like, yes, I weigh myself every day, and yes, that is important to me. But I do think, going back to what you originally asked, I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to just trust yourself and to trust the
Mm,
process and to
right.
really be patient with it, because it's very interesting to see, and I know we've talked about this a lot, the trajectory of the scale of weight loss and that journey is different for everyone. And sometimes instead of looking like this, it's like
Well,
this.
and I exactly like this,
And then
this, this,
yeah,
this, this,
right.
this, this,
Exactly.
this, this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, Barbara, because I think this was, when the Shiftway Mastery process was maybe 4 months ago when we did it, and you've released 24 pounds. So you've really, even though you said, well, maybe I'll just do a half a pound, you have released
Right.
a lot more quickly. Once you kind of were okay with the fact, like, okay,
Yeah.
this isn't, once you aligned with yourself,
Right.
you know, you
Yeah.
you made a lot of internal changes. And I think that that is the thing, is it's not, there's this psychological term, external locus of control and internal locus of control. And I think it's what really the hypnosis and the program is for, and what you have illuminated so, with great articulation, I guess I should say, you articulated so well, is this idea of like moving from external, like Weight Watchers and points and good
Right.
and bad, to like, I'm doing this for me. And this is
Mhm.
about me being my own best friend and showing up for
Right.
myself and really figuring this out for myself. So good for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Well,
it's
thank
been a
you.
joy to watch you on your journey.
Thank you, Rita. Yeah, and I just really quickly to add to that, I think what's so interesting and the irony of it all is that it did start with that external kind of that external focus, and it, and that's how it did start with that with your program, and it's always started that with every sort of weight loss journey diet I've ever done. But somewhere along the way, early on in the process, it shifted to the internal, and I think that's when the real kind of progress and change started to happen.
Yeah.
So I just, it does maybe sound from the outset a bit woo woo, but actually when you do start to kind of go a bit deeper and you start to make this about sort of a journey, like an inward journey, I guess, if you will,
Yes.
that's when the real changes start to happen.
Right.
That's what I'm finding. So yeah, so thank you
Yeah,
for,
well, you're welcome. It's a hero's journey, like if you know that Joseph Campbell uh, hero's journey, where the hero is reluctant in the beginning, but then he decides to go on the journey, and obstacles immediately start to come his way, and then he has to fight the dragon, and but then he gets mastery, and I
yeah,
think it is really a mastery journey where you do have to fight your dragons, but you get the fulfilling process of really becoming your own best friend and really loving
yeah,
yourself from the inside out. So, like I said, it's been a joy to be with you so far. I'm looking forward to continuing on, but thank you for sharing your experience with us. It's been really soulful. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Rita.
Oh, you're welcome.